Well, good morning, everyone. This is James Hunt of Everyman Advisory. This is the second in the Everyman Chronicles series. I'm standing here this morning, as I was yesterday, next to the Billy Boy Gates, as I now call them. So yesterday I gave you all a rather disturbing announcement that planet Earth seemed to be subject to a hostile takeover bid by a psychopathic global elite. Quite extraordinary, isn't it? Who would have thought it? But I'm afraid after lots of study, that's the only conclusion I've been able to come to. So yesterday's theme was courage, the courage to let go. My father, up in that tree in occupied France in Normandy, deciding whether he was going to press the release button and drop 100 feet or 10 feet. He pressed the release button and I'm here, so it can't have been that bad. So, the themes today are communication, duty and sacrifice. And whenever I'm acting for business owners who are facing difficulties, the first thing after you've surveyed the landscape, worked out where you are, here, hostile takeover bid, the second thing is to be confident enough to understand where you are. And part of that is all about communication. Communicating with yourself and with your team, with your family, so that you have the courage and the confidence to move forward. Now, what we've had, certainly in Britain, and I'm sure throughout the rest of the world, is a rather strange disinformation campaign. Now, the BBC, I've come to learn, we should call the British Brainwashing Corporation, and I don't say that lightly. The other day I was looking up a bit of information about the inventor of the PCR test, Carrie Mullis, and I found myself on the website of a charity called Full Fact. They were disagreeing with the central theme of the article that had been published, so I thought, well, let me do a little bit of a fact check. Now, the great thing, of course, in this age of the internet is you can check things up very quickly, so I checked, and the charity registered in London called Full Fact. Professor Jean Smeaton, who is Professor of Media History, was one of the long-standing trustees, and I checked her out, and it transpires that she is the official BBC historian. Interesting. I wonder whether the history of Jimmy Savile appears in her official history, or that of Martin Bashir. And in future years, I wonder whether the British Brainwashing Corporation will feel it appropriate to mention their part in the plandemic. We heard last week that Hugh Pym, who's been regaling us most evenings about the plandemic, had become the BBC, not the BBC, rather the journalist for 2020. Step up, Hugh, and take a bow. I always think Hugh looks a bit like a dozy giraffe, doesn't he? Sorry, Hugh, that might sound a little bit insulting, but I think probably better to be a dozy giraffe than a man who's complicit in this pandemic, don't you think? Anyway, we who don't like propaganda might have to start soon awarding the Paul Joseph Goebbels Award for dishonest journalism. And I'm afraid there are going to be quite a few candidates in the field for that unpleasant award. Moving swiftly on. When it comes to the trials at The Hague for the breaches of the Nuremberg Code, it will not be open to the elite of our society to say they did not know. They knew. We know they knew. They turned their heads away. So when I look around the world now, our country, friends, family, business associates, we see lots of people with their head in the sand, ostrich-like. They don't want to let go. They don't want to see a changing world. Well, I'm afraid all of us are going to have to let go, as my father had to let go that day in the tree in Germany. So over the last few minutes I've been talking about psychopathic snakes, deceitful journalist cockroaches, or we give them the benefit of the doubt, dozy giraffes, and enabling establishment rats. But sorry for any microaggressions caused, guys, but that's how we see it. Anyway, enough of nature notes. Time to move on to sacrifice. So, back to my father's story. We're in occupied Normandy. It's 3 months or so before the D-Day landings. My father has had the courage to press that parachute release. He's fallen, I think probably 20, 30 feet. He's landed badly, but a lady is there to rescue him. A lady from the French resistance, a very brave teacher. My father is nursed back to health. Some 3 months later, he has rejoined his company, the SAS troop. Their job is to sabotage the German lines of retreat as the D-Day landing takes place. So the troop commander, the company commander, is a guy called Captain Fenwick. Now, Fenwick had been a cartoonist in with the Daily Express, and my father said he used to amuse everyone with his drawings of the men sitting around the campfire. So the sacred duty that the commanding officer had was to look after something called the silk. Now, the silk was a device used to de-encrypt messages that were coming in from HQ and through Morse code. So one day in the forest, Fenwick and my father spotted a group of German soldiers coming through the trees. So Fenwick said, right, off we go. And my father said, even though he got a gammy leg, God, I ran like hell, James, he said. So 2 miles away, they stopped. And Fenwick discovered, to his horror, that he'd left the silk behind in his tent. So he said to his men, right, I've got to go back. If I don't, men will die because the German soldiers will have that silk and they will intercept messages. So it's my duty to go back. So my father told me that 30 minutes later, 5 shots rang out. And that was the end of Captain Fenwick. And as my father told me that story as a young boy, I was probably 7 or 8, he had that tear in his eye. And as I remember that tear in his eye, I remember his love for Captain Fenwick, the man who had sacrificed his life for others. A brave man. And I'm afraid in the coming months, years, there are going to be lots of sacrifices needed from lots of people. So we would do well to remember that generation, the generation that gave their lives in the Great War and in the Second World War, so that we could have peace, freedom and liberty. So Captain Fenwick, I salute you. I'd also like to salute a very brave Aussie, Brady Gunn. Now, some of you will know that Brady, some months ago, started a wonderful movement at Hyde Park in Sydney. Stand in the Park. For the first 3 months, Brady stood by himself, but that didn't deter him. And eventually people joined him, and then people joined him all around the world. His friend in England, Izzy, organised the British version of Stand in the Park. So my wife Alice and I, it's our 40th wedding anniversary tomorrow. We'll be standing in the green, actually, Blockley, just opposite the house where Dwight D. Eisenhower used to live just before the Normandy landings. Apparently had a very attractive chauffeur. The rumours, we're told, are completely false, that they enjoyed relations. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Sorry, Bill. So anyway, we salute you, Brady. We salute you, Izzy. And do join Brady, Izzy and everyone around the world with the Stand in the Park, standing for freedom and liberty. Those such important values that those before us ensured we could enjoy. So, that's all from me for today. Next Friday I'll be back with my thoughts on the Great Reset. What on earth is it all about, and how have we ended up in this difficulty? So do join me next week for episode 3 of the Everyman Chronicles. Bye for now.